Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we talk about healthy relationships from a Muslim lens. I'm Zara Hassan.
And I'm AJ, and let's get started.
Let's get started.
Let's get
I
started.
almost forgot the intro this time. My mind is fuzzy. But on this week's episode, we have a question coming in from the Muslim Marriage subreddit by a young woman entitled, "How do I compromise in marriage?"
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very interesting. I don't think we've talked about compromise yet.
Quite.
Yeah. So she says, Salam, I have been married to my husband for a year and a few months, alhamdulillah. Overall, he's protective and a strong provider. When we met, though, he was less religious, and we were aligned as I was less practicing too at the time. I did not wear hijab or keep all my prayers. I fasted and made sure to abide by my other requirements. I dressed modestly, but again didn't wear hijab. After a few months of our marriage, my husband's sense of religiousness had steadily increased rapidly. He's very informed, reads a lot of lectures, reads Quran, goes to classes, etc. I'm happy this is a huge strength, but it also led to multiple conflicts and me not feeling good enough. He has been vocal about hijab as a fard, and we've been constantly discussing this. It's been a challenge for me to come towards hijab, and I'm working on it. However much we communicate about this and involve counseling, it hasn't seemed to be improved, and I have said I wouldn't wear the hijab unless it's for Allah first, and right now it feels like it's for him. Specifically, he recently told me that he's starting to lose trust and care for me because he feels something is missing in my hijab journey, which is a fear of Allah. My husband is constantly striving to do better, and I encourage it, but it's also feeling coercive to me that he's pushing hijab so much. Now I'm scared. I'm going to lose him, and every week, even with counseling, it comes back to this issue with hijab. I worry that his care and love towards me will be overridden by this worry he has that I don't fear Allah enough, and that is a turnoff for him. I don't know what to do. Any advice is appreciated as I am reading, making dua, getting counseling. We are currently living separately after another argument on this, and it's exhausting. I will note he did not have this preference before marriage, but I don't think it's a bait and switch. He has become more religious in all ways after marriage, and it all aligns with the knowledge seeking. Please advise any sisters or husbands been in this situation. All right, what do you think?
I think she's running away from success.
Okay, interesting.
Legitimately, I just think that's the case. What she's trying to do is she's trying to say, I want to wear the hijab for Allah's sake, not for my husband's sake.
Yeah.
But she hasn't been wearing the hijab for Allah's sake in the first place. So why not wear it for her husband's sake and then have it be for Allah's sake later? At the very least, you're not falling into sin. You know? Like, let me put it into perspective. If someone doesn't want to work out, right, for their own sake.
Yes.
But their best friend or their family member says, why don't you work out for my sake?
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
And they say, well, I want to work out for my own sake, not for your sake.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not working out in the first place.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So if you're going to work out for your sake and you don't want to work out for your sake as of yet, at the very least, substitute it for your friend's sake. Have that motivation be there. So that way you can at the very least get yourself into the habit of working out, and then it just becomes working out for your sake.
Yeah.
In the end, you know?
Yeah.
Because when you practice Islam, it raises your faith, it raises your deen, and then it eventually will become something that you'll do for yourself. But you can't just expect all of a sudden to become faithful.
Yeah. So fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
It is one of the, like, it's, I've heard it by other Islamic leaders. They say that this might be one of the tactics of the shaitan.
Yeah.
That when somebody, like our parents or our spouse, tells us something good to do in Islam, we say, okay, I'm going to do it when I feel ready, because I want to do it for the sake of Allah, not for the sake of you. So this is one of the tactics. But this is the reason why I chose this question is because it brings up something that I didn't know when I was getting married, and it's important that sisters understand when they're getting married. There's a certain list of rights that your husband has over you,
Yeah.
and there's a list of rights that you have over him.
Yeah.
Right? So the list of rights that you have over him are divided into financial versus non-financial. Non-financial rights being those such as kind treatment,
Protection.
not abusing, like also lack of abuse. Those are two separate ones.
Protection.
Protection. I don't know if protection is explicitly
Yeah,
right.
Protection is. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You have the obligation that I have to protect you. If someone comes to attack us, I have to be the one that gets in front of you.
Of course.
And fights.
All right.
That's my obligation.
In Shaa Allah, we'll see who makes it to the door first.
I will literally push you to the ground.
Okay.
And I will lock this door.
Okay.
I'm telling you, if there's an actual intruder, like beforehand, I would let you walk next to me because I know that there isn't an actual intruder.
Yeah.
So I would push you to the ground. If there was someone, I'd lock you in.
Yes. So, but in general, okay, so it's interesting to know that you have a plan already in place.
Yeah.
Okay. But in general, when it comes to the rights of the wife, there's financial and non-financial. And it's a pretty detailed list. You can find it pretty much anywhere on the internet. There's also a list of rights that the husband has over you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and among those rights is usually listed the right of obedience.
Mm-hmm.
And that right of obedience is something very heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something very heavy. Because so much of our akhirah is tied to what our husbands think of us.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand what that means, what that entails.
Yeah.
If he asks of you something that is within the religion, right? As long as it's something that's not haram.
Yeah.
You should. Our religion states that you should obey him.
Yeah. Obligation.
That's the general guideline.
Yeah.
That was put in place by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, what that means is it's very important to choose somebody who you can trust with that right.
Yeah.
Somebody you know who's not going to take advantage of you based on that right. So that's why everything that I do, so much of what I do in my coaching is teaching people and teaching women in particular, because they're more vulnerable, of how to recognize who won't abuse that right and who is a safe person that you can actually build a healthy marriage with, In Shaa Allah. Similarly, the rights of the wife include financial and non-financial, especially the financial ones. In today's economy, there's the right of mahar, there's the right of him spending on you, and there's the right of accommodations.
Mm-hmm.
These can also be very heavy, right? So whenever you hear this conversation about 50-50 and, men expecting women to pay their own way, etc., these are individuals who don't understand this very, very heavy burden that's upon them, that they're going to be asked about in Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? So it's important that you understand what is expected from you, not by him and not by her, but what is expected from you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully that makes sense. Therefore, for this young sister, in this case, what I would say is that if your husband is asking you to wear hijab and you don't feel yet ready because you don't feel that it's for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by obeying your husband, it is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So it's two birds, one stone.
Yeah.
And eventually, exactly as you said it, it's the more that you wear it, the more you become used to it. In Shaa Allah, In Shaa Allah. I probably shouldn't generalize, because the hijab journey for each woman is a very personal thing that we all have had to go through. But it can sort of ease the process. It does for some people, not for everyone. By wearing it often, it might make it easier for you. But even if it doesn't make it easier for you, because he has this right over you, by fulfilling that right and by saying, you know what, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm going to wear this hijab because you told me to.
Yeah.
And even though I'm not ready, and I prefer you didn't ask me to, but only for the sake of Allah am I going to wear it. And in that way, you are wearing it for the sake of Allah because you are obeying Him for the sake of Allah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very important to really understand the what is required of you as a spouse and what it is that you're going to be asked about on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So go through and read what are the things that are expected of you in terms of the rights of the wife and the rights of the husband. Did you know that even children, when you have children, have a very long list set of rights?
Yeah.
I forgot what the number is, but
Absolutely.
it's a long list. And this list of rights, based on what I've seen, and again, I'm not a scholar. I'm just a regular person reading things on the internet. But based on what I've seen, it includes things like extracurricular activities. Your children have a right to extracurricular activities.
Yeah, if they ask for it, you have to provide it.
Yeah, they have. It's just, so what I'm saying is that we have there's two parts of our role as a Muslim. The first part is our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the rights that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has upon us. You know, we have to pray, zakat, obedience, all these things. And then the second is our relationship with the creation.
Uh-huh.
And first and foremost amongst that creation is your spouse, are your parents, are your children, all of these individuals who are you're going to be asked about.
Yeah.
So make sure that you're clear about what those are so that, you know, you don't find out the hard way.
Yeah.
That you're married to the wrong person who's asking you things that you are just not ready to do. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. There was this one part in her question where she said that she dressed modestly, but she didn't wear the hijab.
Yeah.
She did not wear the hijab or keep to all of her prayers. She did fast, and she made sure to meet her other requirements.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what those other requirements are in her case.
Yeah.
But the hijab and the praying seem like a big deal, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Like the praying, at the very least, is the biggest deal. There's the shahada.
Yeah.
And then there's prayer immediately following it.
Yeah, but again, when she married this individual, I completely understand.
She was less practicing. He was less practicing.
Exactly.
And then he became more practicing.
Exactly.
But that's the dream.
Yeah.
Literally, that's the dream. Is what you want to do. Is you want to marry someone who's more practicing than you, so that they can pull you up to their level, right?
Yeah, but I also understand what it is that she was saying.
Yeah.
He was at a level of practicing that she was comfortable at. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because each of us, our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and our religion and the things that we do is very, very and deeply personal. So it's almost invasive when you have somebody.
It can be invasive, honestly.
Yeah.
I would prefer it to be invasive. You know what's more invasive?
Yeah.
Hellfire.
No, I know what you're saying, right? I know what you're saying because
Yeah.
you're coming at a place, and everything you're saying is correct.
Yeah.
Because you're coming at a place of tabarakallah, just a good iman. But a lot of people won't always be at that level of iman. Does that make sense? Right? So
you don't have to be, honestly.
Okay.
I'm serious. You don't have to be at that level of iman.
Yeah.
To pray and wear the hijab. Right?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that they won't understand. They won't have that fear of the hellfire, or they won't have that desire to go to Jannah and that love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because the iman is not there yet.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have no place to judge anyone on. That's between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is an individual who's used to that aspect of their life being between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So because it's so deeply personal, it feels invasive with anyone, especially somebody who's not their parents, but anyone comes and says, I'm going to now be a part of this journey between your relationship with between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It feels very invasive. So I understand what it is that she's saying, but that's the reality of what it is when you get married. That not only do they have this right upon you, they also have a responsibility.
Yeah.
Because the men are the imams of their household. They're the leaders of their household. And they're going to be asked about Why didn't they tell their wife to wear hijab? Why
Yeah.
didn't they ask her to pray? These are things that he's going to be asked about, and I'm guessing
Yeah.
that he read those ayahs and got scared, or he
Yeah.
read those hadiths and got scared.
In the Quran.
Yeah. So it's so that's I understand his point of view. I understand her point of view.
The Quran and the Hadiths.
Yeah, but if it's just a matter of like right and wrong, like the reality of what the situation is, the situation is that he has a right to ask that, and you have to do your best to obey to the best
Yeah.
of your ability. And if you can't follow through with that, and he says he wants a divorce, there's really nothing you can do about it because he has a
Yeah.
right to walk away at that point. Does that mean so?
There's
Yeah.
the way I see it,
Mm-hmm.
there's two options,
Yeah.
right? He can ask her
Mm-hmm.
to wear the hijab when she's going out,
Mm-hmm.
and if she refuses, then he can tell her to stay home.
Well, yeah,
He can say, "Hey, you're not allowed to go out."
yeah.
And if she leaves at that point,
Mm-hmm.
right,
Mm-hmm.
then that's the burden of sin on her,
Yeah.
right? At that point, it seems like divorce would be on the table.
No, yeah, exactly. So if this is something that he wants to separate over,
Yeah.
and it sounds like they already have, they're separated at the moment, then this is like based on my extremely limited understanding of Islam, this is something that he has a right to do, and that's the reality of what can happen. So it's important because I know this is not something that most of us are taught about in our families.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Our parents don't really teach us this. Even if you go to Islamic school, this is an area that's not really elaborated upon.
Yeah.
So, and when I sat down and I read what your rights are, I was just like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't need to read. It's fine. It's fine. You don't have to worry about that. Just trust me. But when it's important that you understand what this contract is that you're
Mhm.
signing. Yeah. Just like if you were you had a business and you were now merging with another business, you want to make sure you read every last detail of
Yeah.
what it is that you're actually signing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and that's what we're signing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What she and he should do
Mm-hmm.
is they should put some time
Yeah.
out in the day
Yeah.
to read the Quran together,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because that's one way that she can feel the connection with Allah, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the Quran is the kalam of Allah, the
Yeah.
words of Allah,
Yeah, yeah.
you know? So if you want to strengthen your deen, read the Quran.
Yeah.
If you want to help your husband or your wife become more religious, more faithful,
Mm-hmm.
then put in the effort, right? And read the Quran with them.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And even if they are not able to, for whatever reason, to sit down and read the Quran with you, you can just read the Quran out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then that person, it can reach a person. There's so many videos of it reaching the hearts of people who are not Muslim.
Yeah.
So imagine how it can reach the heart of a Muslim. Hopefully we've covered this. I think we did a similar episode. It was about somebody who, it was about a sister who didn't want to take down her profile picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So these are again issues about autonomy, right? It's really hard being an independent person for so long, and now this person who is very close to you in age, is now saying, "Hey, I get to be in charge." It's difficult.
Yeah.
But again, we were born to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Her job makes it difficult for her to wear a hijab.
No, I don't remember if she said that.
She said that. She said, my career.
I think it's an excuse.
My career makes it difficult for me to wear a hijab. Leave the career.
Yeah, but
leave the career. If it's a career that makes it hard for you to wear a hijab,
yeah,
it's not a good career to be in. Like, for example, I can't be a blackjack dealer at a casino. I can't be a bartender.
It's different because what if her career? Most careers allow for hijab. I think it's an excuse, right?
I think it is.
I think it's an excuse. But sometimes a sister will say something like, I'm a surgeon in a hospital, and it's very hard for me to wear long sleeves in the hospital, not in the operating room, but in the hospital, right? Because that increases the chances of infection.
Contamination.
Yeah. So they might see something like that, or it might be hospital policy that you can't wear a skirt, or that for whatever, like, aspects of your hijab cannot be adhered to based on hospital policy. And for somebody who has worked so hard in their career for a decade or more, it's really hard to ask them to, leave it. So I understand whenever sisters have concerns like these.
What they should do in that case is go to a Muslim country where
Go somewhere else.
yeah,
I know.
that's allowed, or go to a different hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I understand. This is one of, again, just like the test of obedience is very hard, but it is a test in this dunya.
Yeah.
The test of obeying in places where it's hard to obey, when you're obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is another test. You know, you might have a job that doesn't allow you to pray, or you might be really, really need money and finally get a call back from a job, but that job somehow includes alcohol as part of their business.
Sort of haram.
Something kind of haram, and it's really hard to say no when you need money and you're going to be homeless. But so all of these tests are tests that are
absolutely
part of life.
And here's something even more about that, right? Those tests that involve temptation or money or anything like that.
Yeah.
The correct answer and the responsible answer, and actually the beneficial answer, is to say no to that temptation, because Allah already told you, right?
Yeah.
If you leave something for my sake, I'll replace it with something better.
Yeah.
So if you say no to that job, you'll find a better job.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, that's the principle in our religion, right? But it's important that we say first and foremost, this is advice to ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? Because alhamdulillah, we have a decent sized audience from people all over the world. And we don't want to be asked about any kind of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
So this is first and foremost advice to ourselves. It is one of those tests, because most Muslims, especially born Muslims, we are aware of these principles. So, however, because we don't know an individual's circumstances, we can advise them. But you also have to empathize that it can be very difficult. Does that make sense? Like a job might be the difference between being homeless or not, and this person might have children, right? That's a difficult circumstance. So it's not our place to judge people, but that's the general principle. And for this question in particular with the sister, that's the general principle. And if she genuinely is not able to wear hijab at her position or office, then she might have to reevaluate whether or not she can work there. Maybe she can go work at a similar job somewhere else that will allow her to wear hijab.
Yeah.
So it's not the general advice.
Yeah.
Hopefully through all those ramblings, something made sense.
There is one more piece of advice.
Okay.
For a good number of the audience, they might be able to reflect upon this.
Mm-hmm.
If you had the opportunity to go back in time to when you were a child and relive your formative years or your school years, right, to try to get either a better career or do something different, would you?
Yeah.
And the majority of the people would say, yes, I would. I would go back in time with the knowledge that I have now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And try to get a better career, or try to do better financially, or try to just work harder in school, or like try to accomplish this one thing that I slacked on when I was younger. We are living that time right now.
Yeah.
Our lifetime is that for Judgment Day, right?
That's true.
On Judgment Day, we're going to think to ourselves, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I study harder or do this? Why didn't I focus on that? You know?
Yeah. No,
we are living that time right now.
And as always, first and foremost, that's an advice for ourselves, In Shaa Allah, before anyone else. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us to follow through and adhere to it in a way that pleases Him. Ameen.
Ameen.
Yeah, so hopefully with respect to the question, what we were saying makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And the reason why I chose that question is I know we recently did an episode with the profile picture that had similar ideas, but to really drive this concept home, because it is so heavy, to make sure that you understand what is required of you, both men and women.
Yeah.
What you will be asked about on Judgment Day, both men and women, as a spouse.
Yeah.
Did you fulfill what the rights of your spouse were? And I believe that's it. Is there anything else?
Yeah, there is. Last comment.
Okay.
The Bible also says the same.
Mm-hmm.
It says that the men are the heads of the woman, and God is the head of men.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So even in the Bible, it's not a Muslim thing. It's not like a Islamic thing only.
Yeah. No, it's
the Abrahamic religions. They have this where the wife does need to have some semblance of obedience to her husband because he is her protector, right?
Yeah.
And if he is doing right by her, right, and following the will of Allah, then he would not try to impose any negativity upon her.
Yeah, In Shaa Allah, right? That's why it's so important to make sure that you choose somebody who won't abuse these rights, both men and women, right? Who are not going to ask from you more than is absolutely necessary. Just like I don't ask from you too much. Do I ask from you too much?
No.
Good. All right. And I don't think you ask from me too much.
You're doing wonderfully.
Oh, Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. Yeah, and then I mean, yeah. Don't look at those. Don't look at the lists. Just trust me.
I've buried that list with a shovel.
Oh, okay. All right. I appreciate that. So with that note, just if you made it this far into the podcast, Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. We really appreciate you choosing to spend this time with us. We honestly really do. And if you have found anything that we useful amongst our ramblings in this episode or previous episodes, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really helps us out. We celebrate each and every single new subscription by telling everybody in the family. It's a whole big deal. So we want to tell everybody who has already subscribed, we appreciate each one of you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And finally, if you are a young woman and you are in this process of trying to find a spouse, somebody who won't abuse his rights, so some over you, inshallah, I have created a PDF called the Compatibility Guide to help you try to assess compatibility during the talking stage. You can find a free version to download in the description below, or also find it on my Instagram page as Zara Hassan Coaching. And if you have any questions you would like us to read on the podcast, there is a link to a form below, a short form where you can write out your question and we will most likely read it on the podcast. So Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. We really appreciate you. Have a great weekend and Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.